Wang Lin's pupils immediately shrank and he looked down at his bag of holding. He split a piece of his divine sense to enter the bag of holding and found that the mysterious scroll he found back on Suzaku had automatically opened. There was a violet light coming from the scroll, creating the shadow of a woman. This figure was extremely beautiful. With her back toward Wang Lin, it was as if she kept softly whispering, "Go down." Wang Lin wasn't unfamiliar with the beautiful figure inside the scroll. Back on Suzaku, when he had to deal with the beast the third ancestor released, this figure from within the scroll appeared and took control of those beasts. Wang Lin had always been puzzled about this scroll. Right after he reached the Ascendant stage, he took out the scroll when he was in the Soul Refining tribe and made no progress. Although he could leave an imprint on the scroll, he couldn't control it. At this moment, the figure in the scroll appeared once more. Wang Lin sent out a divine sense message. "Go down this deep pit?" The figure softly whispered again. "Go down." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he withdrew his divine sense. He looked down at the deep pit. The pit was completely dark, and all he could see was darkness. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and chased after Zhou Yi. Could there be something inside the deep pit that is related to the scroll? Wang Lin chased after Zhou Yi while pondering. Zhou Yi's voice came from the front. There is a mysterious force inside the pit that affects the mind. If one's mind isn't strong enough, they will fall in. Zhou Yi reminded again. Don't look anymore and continue flying. Wang Lin nodded and focused his mind. As he flew with Zhou Yi through the corridor, the suction from the pit would suddenly become strong or weak. After an unknown amount of time, the celestial sword Zhou Yi was in suddenly stopped, and Wang Lin stopped as well. They were already at the eastern part of the corridor, and the path before them was completely dark. Be careful, there is something strange about the pit. Just as Zhou Yi's voice came out, a purple mist suddenly came out from the pit and surrounded the area. Zhou Yi's voice became somewhat illusory inside the mist. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. This mist's appearance was simply too strange. Not only did this mist block sight, it also limited divine sense to less than 30 feet. When he extended any more than that, the divine sense would disappear as if it was devoured by the mist. Even at 30 feet, what he could see with his divine sense was somewhat blurry. At the same time, the suction from the pit seemed to increase with the appearance of the mist. However, this suction had no effect on the mist itself. It was extremely strange. There was a flash of sword light in the mist in front of Wang Lin, and then Zhou Yi's celestial sword flew over. It circled around Wang Lin, and Zhou Yi sent a divine sense message. Forget it. Climb up, Wang Lin, and I'll take you over. This mist is a bit strange. I'm afraid there might be danger with your strength. Wang Lin didn't waste time and stepped onto the celestial sword. A surge of celestial spiritual energy came from the sword into Wang Lin's feet and flowed through his entire body. Stabilize your energy, focus your mind, and don't let the celestial spiritual energy escape. Zhou Yi's words echoed in Wang Lin's mind. Wang Lin immediately did what Zhou Yi said, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body suddenly trembled. It left his meridians and formed a glittering screen of celestial spiritual energy. Not only did the screen of light contain celestial spiritual energy, it also contained sword energy. The screen spread out and the mist was suddenly pushed back. A tunnel in the mist was formed as if a pair of giant hands had opened a path. Zhou Yi turned into a ray of light while carrying Wang Lin and flew directly through the purple mist. As the celestial sword flew through, the purple mist was pushed away. Even when the purple mist wasn't pushed away by the screen, the powerful sword energy from the celestial sword made the purple mist disappear. The celestial sword was too fast, so fast that Wang Lin felt the powerful wind hit his face. The purple mist seemed to have turned into purple dragons that passed the corners of his eyes in the matter of a few breaths of time. After a long time, the celestial sword suddenly made a turn, tilted upwards, and began flying in a spiral. Wang Lin cycled the celestial spiritual energy in his body to stabilize himself, so he wouldn't be thrown off the celestial sword. The aura of the last generation's Rain Celestial Sword Spirit is just ahead. Wang Lin, stabilize yourself. I'm about to go at full speed. After Zhou Yi finished speaking, he gave Wang Lin a few seconds to prepare himself. Then the celestial sword suddenly accelerated. It was so fast that it even began to create afterimages. It was as if it was teleporting. Wang Lin stood on the celestial sword and felt like 100,000 mountains had just passed by him. He was no longer breathing and was holding a mouthful of celestial spiritual energy. If it was real teleportation, it would have been fine, and Wang Lin wouldn't have felt like this. However, this wasn't teleportation, but they had achieved speed equal to teleportation. The celestial screen distorted and deformed until it was sticking to Wang Lin's body. The celestial sword reached an unimaginable speed. Wang Lin could even see that the mist around him had turned into a sea of mist. This was an illusion caused by the fact that they were going too fast. The feeling that he only had when he had just entered the cultivation world hundreds of years ago appeared once more. This made him quite melancholy. This is the real celestial sword and sword spirit. Although my celestial sword has this strength, the sword spirit is not strong enough to use its full power. Although Su Ligua has a rebellious nature, this devil likes to bully the weak but fears the strong. This devil won't be able to escape from me. Just at this moment, the purple mist began to churn and began to expand. Then a powerful suction force suddenly came from the bottomless pit where the mist came from. The powerful suction force came too suddenly. The mist that was originally not affected by this suction force was also quickly sucked into the deep pit. The suction force from the pit became stronger and stronger, causing the mist to be quickly sucked into the pit. At the same time, some fine gravel along the walls were also sucked in. At this moment, in the corridor in the distance, there was a large sword stuck in the wall. It began to tremble and started to move little by little out of the wall. Finally, with a bang, it was pulled out from the wall and went directly toward the pit due to the suction force. At this moment, the sword Zhou was in flew by. Wang Lin was able to recognize the familiar big golden sword going toward the deep pit. Zhou didn't hesitate to turn around and turn toward the deep pit toward the big sword. The suction forces inside and outside the deep pit were extremely different. Now that Zhou flew into the pit and was flying toward it, his speed was faster than lightning. In the blink of an eye, they caught up to the big golden sword. Wang Lin revealed a look of decisiveness while on the celestial sword and immediately caught the big sword. However, the deep pit suction force had already wrapped around the big sword. Now that Wang Lin grabbed the sword, it was the same as stealing a treasure from the deep pit and fighting against the suction force. The moment he grabbed it, there was suddenly a powerful pull. Wang Lin's body became unstable for a moment, and he almost fell off the celestial sword. At this moment of crisis, Wang Lin took a deep breath and Underworld River suddenly appeared around him. Under Wang Lin's control, the Underworld River began to spiral violently around him, forming a vortex with him at the center. The suction on Wang Lin weakened and then he immediately pulled on the sword. The big sword stopped falling into the pit and was slowly pulled back. A roar came from Zhou, and the roar seemed to contain a sword spirit spell. The sword released a flash of light and Zhou suddenly pulled Wang Lin toward the opening of the pit. Wang Lin felt like his body was about to be torn apart. The big sword in his right hand seemed to have infinite weight. He stood on the celestial sword and the veins on his face popped. As Zhou charged upward, the big sword was slowly pulled up as well. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with determination. At this moment, he mustn't let go. He was afraid this sword would never see the light of day again if he let go. While Zhou charged up, the big sword held by Wang Lin slowly flew up as well. The gold on the sword had all fallen off, revealing a completely black sword. The remaining jewels on the hilt of the sword had all shattered and had been sucked into the deep pit. Zhou let out a roar, increasing the power of the celestial sword, and the big sword was pulled up several dozen more feet. Wang Lin used more celestial spiritual energy and made the Underworld River spin even faster. This constantly weakened the suction force. Finally, Zhou rushed out of the deep pit with Wang Lin. At the moment they charged out, Wang Lin let out a roar. The big sword was pulled out and landed in Wang Lin's hand. There was a shallow word carved on the big sword. Wealth. While holding wealth, many memories from the past flashed across Wang Lin's mind. He took a deep breath and before he had time to look, Zhou quickly pulled him away down a corridor nearby. Zhou's speed was very quick as he moved through the corridor. Wang Lin sent out a divine sense message to Zhou, leading him to the only exit in the Tide Abyss. The exit at the Fire Demon Country. Wang Lin held wealth in his hand and carefully looked at it before putting it in his bag of holding. That glance earlier allowed him to see some clues about the sword. If his cultivation wasn't enough, he wouldn't have seen anything, but now that his cultivation had reached the ascendant stage, it was different. However, right now was not the time to study, so he put it inside his bag of holding. Wang Lin was prepared to carefully study it after leaving the Tide Abyss. The trip to the Tide Abyss is complete. Unfortunately, I have no clue where the mysterious token is. Wang Lin began to ponder. Inside Wang Lin's bag of holding, the mosquito beast opened its eyes and revealed a hint of doubt. Normally, when inside the bag of holding, unless it used an amazing spell, it shouldn't be able to feel what was outside. However, at this moment, he felt that there were many auras that gave him a very familiar feeling. After hesitating for a bit, the mosquito still couldn't figure it out. It looked at the still sleeping Thunder Toad, laid down on the Thunder Toad's back, and closed its eyes. With Zhouyi's speed, they got closer and closer to the Fire Demon countries exist. At the same time, they were getting closer and closer to the mist and the large amount of mosquitoes surrounding Greed and his group. In the Demon Spirit Land, a cloud was flying closer from the south. This cloud was filled with celestial spiritual energy, as if was something from the celestial realm. It released bursts of light, and as it flew across the sky, it filled the sky with color. There were two people standing on this auspicious cloud, a man and a woman. The male was in an upright posture, wearing a blue robe with azure clouds embroidered on them, and the clouds even gave off ripples. His long hair flowed behind him, revealing a handsome face. He faced the wind and held a green jade flute in his hand. Along with how his cloth fluttered in the wind, he was like a celestial. Behind him, the woman was wearing a lavender dress embroidered with small pink flowers. Her hair was loosely tied into a bun with a lavender hairpin inside. Although it looked casual, it didn't lose its elegance. She had light makeup on, and her lips were red without the use of any cinnabar. It could be said that her body was soft and her aura was fragrant. The woman's eyes would occasionally look at the man beside her, and her eyes contained tenderness. It was obvious these two were a cultivation couple. Although normal cultivators could ride clouds and fog, they were normal white clouds and fog made from water vapor. These kinds of spells were considered low quality. Not only was that method not fast, but there wasn't anything special about it. It was only used by some people to pretend to be celestials to fool mortals. However, this cultivation pair was different. This cloud was refined from the ninth heaven cloud. Even back before the collapse of the celestial realm, it was extremely rare. The power of this cloud lay in the fact that it naturally contained celestial lightning, so its power was naturally not to be underestimated. The older generation of cultivators would immediately recognize the two after seeing the cloud. The reason was that only people at the same realm as the blood ancestor, Ling Tianho, and the All-Seer could ride on a cloud like that. The celestial cloud cultivation couple. The cultivation couple that came to the Demon Spirit Land back then with Ling Tianho and the All-Seer. They occupied one of caves and hadn't left for tens of thousands of years. Wang Wei who won. These two people's cultivation could already match the All-Seer and company. Adding on the fact that the two were good at working together, even All-Seer was extremely cautious of them. What the All-Seer dreaded even more was the origin of those two. These two people's identities were extremely mysterious. Even the All-Seer couldn't find out anything about them. He only vaguely knew that these two people had been cultivating for longer than even him. Luckily, these two had a very peaceful nature and didn't like to fight for power. As long as one didn't provoke them, there would be no problem. If the short old man saw these two people, he would definitely immediately recognize them and gnash his teeth. These two were the people that stole a bag of holding from him back then. The two of them rode the cloud and flew directly toward the Fire Demon country. At the moment the cloud entered the Fire Demon country, Bei Lu, who was under the capital of the Sky Demon country, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes gave off a very bright golden light, but that light soon disappeared. They actually left the cave. It looks like I have to increase the speed of devouring the other ancient demon souls. There was a very well-hidden sense of dread in Bei Lu's eyes. At novel bin at. As the celestial cloud flew directly into the Fire Demon country, all of the clouds in the sky were forced out of the way. Even the demon generals and soldiers in the cities were all shaken. They didn't dare to fly out to check at all. Not long after, the celestial cloud stopped at the Tide Abyss exit. The cloud gradually disappeared and the two landed. The man's eyes were filled with interest as he smiled at the woman next to him. Interesting. Wang, there are some restrictions here. These restrictions are pretty clever. The woman's eyes were filled with joy as she said with a graceful voice, there aren't many restrictions that can arouse your interest. The gentle breeze caused the grass on the ground to shake slightly. The man's and woman's clothes also swayed with the breeze. The man looked at the ground with a look of admiration in his eyes and smiled. These restrictions include ancient restriction techniques. And there is also a hint of celestial restrictions. Not simple. The woman beside him played with her hair next to her ear. She looked on the ground and gently nodded. The ancient restriction techniques are very skilled, but the celestial restrictions are a bit rough. It looks like this person had just learned celestial restrictions. The man nodded in agreement and said, this must be a cultivator with heritage from ancient cultivators. This person is so skilled with ancient restrictions that he must have cultivated for at least 10,000 years. The woman shook her head and gently said, that might not be true. You haven't personally met the person who placed the restrictions. The man laughed and said, Wang, are you trying to test your husband? How about you and I make a bet? If the person who placed the restrictions hasn't cultivated for 10,000 years, it is my loss. How about it? The woman smiled and looked at the man with tenderness in her eyes. She said, how could such a small restriction catch the attention of Cloud Celestial Wang, who claims to be able to see through all celestial restrictions? The man smiled and shook his head. You're avoiding the issue. I don't believe you haven't already seen through these restrictions. Although the restrictions are rough, there was much thought behind them, and they are extremely ingenious. Look at these restrictions. If it was anyone other than the two of us, and they were just a bit careless, they would not have noticed the restrictions. These restrictions were not made to kill, so they give off no killing intent. However, they are linked by divine sense, so if anyone were to enter this area, they would immediately be detected by the person who placed the restrictions. These are not the main point. If this was it, it wouldn't have caught my interest. Look over there. The man pointed to some grass. The wind blew and the grass moved with the wind. There didn't seem to be anything abnormal there. The man's eyes revealed a mysterious light and he said, if I'm not mistaken, there isn't just one restriction here. Instead, there are a chain of restrictions linked together. As long as not all of them are broken at once, the person who set the restrictions will still know that someone has triggered a restriction. As he spoke, his right hand reached out. All of the grass was pressed down except for one that still moved with the wind. Placing restrictions in the air is considered a low-level method. Placing it inside an object is only considered a mid-level method. However, look at this grass. Wang, look carefully. Can you see what is different about this grass? The woman was quite surprised. She knew Wang too well. Although he was easygoing, when he encountered restrictions, he would become a different person. However, because of this, it was impossible for ordinary restrictions to catch his eyes. The light in his eyes right now was a rare sight. At novel bin at. The woman took a careful look and then revealed an astonished expression. She softly said, the grass contains falseness within the truth. Wang's eyes revealed a hint of joy and he waved his right hand. The blade of grass was pulled up from the root and fell in his hand. He nodded. Yes, this blade of grass is real, but the liquid inside is fake. As he spoke, he rubbed the grass with his 2 fingers. A strand of white grass suddenly appeared around the blade of grass. As the white gas circled the blade of grass, the liquid inside quickly came out. As the liquid came out, the grass was no longer green but slowly turned yellow. Soon, a drop of crystal clear blue liquid appeared above the man's palm. This drop of blue liquid was crystal clear. One after another, the restrictions inside flashed. It was dense due to the countless restrictions inside. The man revealed a look of admiration once more. He looked at the liquid above his palm and whispered, there are more than 1,000 restrictions here, and they are perfectly linked together. The restrictions can take the form of a drop of liquid due to how stable the structure is. Although these restrictions are very common, the more common the restriction, the harder it is to perfectly link them like this. This is why only someone who has cultivated for over 10,000 years can create a restriction like this. Only a cultivator that has experienced various changes in life, someone who's experienced countless life and death scenarios, and someone who has found their own Tao can have the cunning to deduce such a restriction. If it wasn't for 10,000 years of time, how could one experience all the changes in life? How could one see through life and death? How could one forge such an exquisite scheme? Making restrictions doesn't have much to do with talent. It is much more related to mentality and one's ability to scheme. Wang Wei's eyes revealed a hint of reminiscence. The woman's eyes were filled with tenderness. She stood beside the man and said, "Don't think too much. Didn't you want to bet with me? I bet that the person who placed these restrictions hasn't cultivated for 10,000 years." The man smiled, and the reminiscence in his eyes disappeared. He looked meaningfully at the woman and smiled. "Okay, we'll just wait here to see the result while we wait for that greed to appear." The woman smiled. "I wonder what that greed will do when he sees us. Will he resist, or obediently hand over the token?" "He won't dare to resist." The man smiled. His tone was very calm without any trace of anger. The moment greed entered the demon spirit land, the cloud celestial couple was already aware of him. After all, the two had spent tens of thousands of years here. They had thoroughly researched one of the fake caves here, and the treasures they obtained were countless. In addition to being good at restrictions, Wang Wei was also good at divination. Although not as good as the all-seer, it was possible to calculate the location of greed and other changes. As for the token, the two of them had also calculated its location. However, this token was extremely strange, and to obtain it, the two of them must do it at a certain time. This was why they hadn't done anything earlier, and were now waiting at the exit in the fire demon country. Forgetting the two of them for now, inside the tide abyss, Wang Lin was riding on Zhou Yi's celestial sword as they charged directly toward the exit like a bolt of lightning. Zhou Yi's speed was extremely quick. After several days, they traveled through the corridors to the crack under the fire demon country. All they needed to do now was fly out from there to leave the tide abyss. The fire demon country's exit was the only place without any resistance going up. Instead, there would be resistance going down. Here, one's speed would seem to be pushed infinitely by a force, allowing one to become even faster. While flying inside the crack toward the fire demon country, Wang Lin's eyes were very calm. He stood on the flying sword, heading straight up, and everything beside him seemed to have turned into a blur. Just at this moment, the celestial sword under him suddenly slowed down. The sword circled a few times before stopping, and Zhou Yi sent a divine sense message. "Wang Lin, there is something wrong. I was using my sword divine sense to check in front of us and found that there is purple mist ahead. There seems to be some cultivators trapped there. But what is strange is that my sword divine sense can't pierce this purple mist." Trapped cultivators? Along the way, Wang Lin didn't see Donghua and the two women. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and he wondered if it was those three. The moment Wang Lin and Zhou Yi paused, the dense swarm of mosquitoes spread out on the other side of the purple mist. Their deep red eyes fiercely stared at the purple mist. The mosquito beasts already looked fierce, and adding on their fierce gazes, they looked even more frightening. They flapped their wings and released a buzzing sound that echoed across the area. However, due to the mysterious pressure pushing upward toward the exit, the sound didn't travel far. These mosquito beasts were huge, but their abdomens were flat. They had clearly been hungry for a long time. However, their long mouths gave off a cold light as if they were sharp swords. They weren't all black, some of them were gray. The hair on their bodies was like thorns. It made them look very frightening. They surrounded the purple mist but didn't enter deep into it. They kept circling the purple mist, and the oppressive atmosphere they gave off became even stronger. There were a few pieces of cloth and dried bloodstains on the wall. There was also a large sword that was completely dim. Inside the dense mosquito swarm, sometimes their mouths would collide and sparks would fly. This made the mosquitoes buzz even louder as if they were about to kill each other. Every time a situation like this happened, a loud buzz would come from the depths of the mosquito swarm. When this sound appeared, the surge to slaughter each other would immediately be suppressed. However, maybe due to staying here for too long, the mosquito beast's violent nature was becoming more difficult to suppress. At this moment, two mosquito beasts' mouths touched, and they both immediately let out howls and began killing each other. A sharp cry came from the depths of the mosquito swarm. The two mosquitoes fighting immediately paused for a moment, but their fierce nature took over. They disregard the roar and continued to fight. The sharp cry came one more, and this time the mosquito swarm dispersed, making a path. This time a mosquito around 100 feet long that contained a small hint of purple slowly flew out. Although there was purple on this mosquito beast, it was very faint. There were 7 needles stabbed into the head of this mosquito beast's head. The needles would release bursts of light, and the mosquito's eyes would sometimes reveal a hint of pain. Its appearance immediately caused the 2 mosquitoes that were fighting to stop. Both of their eyes were filled with ferocity. The mosquito with some purple on its body let out a cry. This cry seemed to contain some kind of spell, and it caused all of the mosquitoes to immediately tremble. Using this change, the purple mosquito moved its wings and moved like lightning. It immediately arrived next to the 2 mosquitoes, then its huge mouth stabbed at the 2. After inhaling, the 2 mosquitoes immediately withered and the 2 withered bodies fell from the air. The purple mosquito turned around and coldly looked at the surrounding mosquitoes. The rest of the mosquitoes immediately let out submissive buzzes and no longer dared to fight with each other. The purple mosquito turned around and slowly went back into the middle of the herd. The purple mosquito's body gave off a sense of age. Inside the purple mist, Greed's eyes faintly opened and released a cold light. Although these strange demonic beasts are indeed very powerful, as long as my 7 magical needles are controlling it, it won't be able to escape from me. Controlling this king beast means controlling the entire herd. This group of demonic beasts is too strange. If I were to use them properly, then even when old man Ling Tianhou arrives, I will have a way to deal with him. There was a hint of pride in Greed's eyes. After he entered the tide abyss, he started arranging his own plans. One of them required the integration of an array. However, he suddenly encountered the mosquito beasts. At first he was startled, but then he was ecstatic. Greed never had a fixed residence. He was always adrift among the stars, heading to wherever there was treasure. This was where the saying, "There are always treasures where greed goes," came from. He had been to too many places in his life, so he had seen these mosquito beasts before. When he first saw them, it was on a very desolate planet. Greed was escaping from someone's pursuit, and had just come out from an ancient transfer array. As soon as he appeared, he saw something he could never forget. It was a large space filled with gray gas with only one planet. The planet was purple. There were countless mosquitoes densely packed together around the planet. The pressure they gave off was so powerful that Greed didn't hesitate at all to use the transfer array to go back. He would rather face the enemy who was hunting him than face those terrifying beasts. After seeing the mosquito beasts inside the cracks of the tide abyss, an idea immediately entered his mind. Then he carefully sent out his life treasure, the 7 magical needles. He used his divine sense to carefully send them into the crack. All of the mosquito beasts were in hibernation. Greed's heart still held fear for the mosquito beasts ever since the last time he encountered him. He was very careful because he was afraid of awakening them. He finally found the king mosquito beast. When the needles stabbed into the king mosquito, he immediately escaped from the crack. That was when Qianlong's group was suddenly trapped by the mosquitoes. As for the purple mist, it was an important part of Greed's place. Greed looked at the surrounding Dalu sword sect disciples and sneered in his heart. Among old man Ling Tianhou's disciples, aside from Qianlong, the rest are all trash. This old man has come to the tide abyss 3 times since I arrived at the demon spirit land. I finally determined that within this purple mist is the token that made even Ling Tianhou's and the all-seer's eyes turn red. However, this token is a bit strange. According to my observations, it will only appear at a certain time, and it seems to require some sacrifices. Greed's eyes seem to randomly sweep past the Dalu sword sect's disciples, including Qianlong. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm worried about the sword energy inside their bodies, I would have already captured these 5 little ones. Then I would have made them willingly sacrifice themselves instead of being trapped here with them for 100 years to make them anxious. Wang Lin stood on the celestial sword and slowly approached the purple mist from the other side. Shortly after, he detected the purple mist in the distance. This purple mist was extremely dense to the point of almost being solid, completely blocked the path. Unless they go through this mist, they would not be able to reach the exit in the fire demon country. Wang Lin, my sword divine sense still can't penetrate this purple mist. This purple mist is very strange, but you can also rest assured that the people trapped inside can't detect you with their divine senses. Zhou Yi's divine sense message came from inside the celestial sword. Wang Lin nodded and began ponder. The pressure pushing him up from the tide abyss was always there. He had to activate the celestial spiritual energy inside his body to stabilize himself. He stared at the purple mist and frowned. Just at this moment, waves of ripples came from his bag of holding. He split a part of his divine sense to check the bag and immediately saw the mosquito beast. The mosquito beast was restless, and there was even a hint of red in its eyes. After it noticed Wang Lin's divine sense, it let out a cry. Wang Lin was rather surprised and withdrew his divine sense. The mosquito beast had always been very obedient and was rarely ever this anxious. He pondered for a bit before slapping his bag of holding, and the mosquito immediately flew out. The moment it appeared, it let out a cry and flew into the purple mist. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He immediately stepped off the celestial sword and caught up with the mosquito beast. Zhou Yi was surprised and quickly followed. The purple mist didn't affect the mosquito at all. It entered the mist and disappeared. Wang Lin was shocked. He didn't know what was going on with the mosquito beast. Fortunately, his connection with the mosquito beast was still there. Wang Lin pondered a bit. Right now wasn't the time to worry about the mosquito beast. He let out a sigh as he focused himself and slowly flew upwards. Inside the celestial sword, Zhou Yi circled around Wang Lin. He had his sword divine sense spread out, observing the surrounding. Greed didn't notice that cultivators had entered the purple mist. The reason he was able to detect the impact of Wang Lin's and Ling Tianho's divine senses was because the shock wave traveled directly through the walls. That was the only reason why he was able to detect it. Wang Lin flew slowly inside the mist and was extremely vigilant. His divine sense had almost no effect inside the purple mist. All he could see before him was thick mist. The 1,000,000 life seals flashed on his forehead, covering his body. If a crisis occurred, it would earn him the chance to act. Zhou Yi circled around Wang Lin. While he flew, he suddenly sent out a divine sense message. Wang Lin, there is an empty area 5 kilometers ahead, and there are 6 people inside. One of them has powerful cultivation, and the clothes the other 5 wear seem somewhat familiar. 6 people. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. I'll let you see. Zhou Yi's divine sense entered Wang Lin's body and dragged Wang Lin's divine sense into the mist. They pierced through a large amount of purple mist and entered the empty area 5 kilometers away. The mist before Wang Lin scattered and then 6 cultivators appeared before his eyes. It's them. Wang Lin immediately recognized the identities of these 6 people. Just at this moment, the old man sitting in the middle suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes gave off a golden light as he shouted, "Which fellow cultivator is this?" This old man's name is Greed. Greed's shout immediately caused the surrounding Delu sword sect disciples' expressions to change greatly, and they suddenly stood up. However, Chunlong didn't, but there was a mysterious light in his eyes. If one looked closer, one would find a hint of joy in his eyes. Zhou Yi brought Wang Lin's divine sense back into the purple mist and disappeared. Greed's expression was ugly, and he let out a cold snort. He slapped his bag of holding, but after hesitating for a moment, he didn't take out a magical treasure. The other's divine sense was extremely strange, which made him uncertain. This divine sense only looked like an early-stage ascendant cultivator, but there was another divine sense inside. This second divine sense was extremely strong and even contained a very sharp sword intent. Before he understood the other's ability, Greed wasn't willing to provoke the enemy, especially because he was still injured. His original cultivation was at the illusory ENGSUB stage, but now it was only at the peak of the late stage of ascendant. During these countless years, he still wasn't able to recover to the peak. This didn't mean that Sitanan was extremely powerful, just that if any cultivator at the illusory ENGSUB stage were to drop in cultivation, it would take several times more effort to recover it than reaching it. After all, the illusory ENGSUB and corporeal Yang were key steps between the first and second steps. They were like the moment when the butterfly breaks out from its cocoon. Even for Sitanan, if it wasn't for the fact that he was being nourished by a mysterious force inside the heaven-defying bead and his talent was simply too amazing, he wouldn't have recovered his cultivation. However, although Greed's cultivation was limited to the peak of the late stage of Ascendant, his cultivation wasn't something an Ascendant cultivator would have. Adding on the treasures he obtained over the countless years, even an illusory ENGSUB cultivator would require a lot of effort to kill him. If they were careless for a moment, they would allow Greed to escape. Zhou brought Wang Lin's divine sense back and they returned to their own bodies. Among the 6 of them, 5 of them are disciples of the Dalu Sword sect, and the last one is called Greed. Wang Lin didn't explain too much about Greed. Dalu Sword sect. Yes, no wonder I felt something familiar. Dalu Sword sect. Wang Lin, what do you plan to do? Zhou Yi's cold voice came from the celestial sword. Wang Lin pondered a bit and said, Senior, don't you find this strange? This Greed's cultivation level is very high and all of Ling Tianho's disciples even have a piece of Ling Tianho's sword energy. Junior also knows that they disappeared about 100 years ago. Taking all that into account, Junior is 80% sure that unless they have been trapped here for 100 years, they must have a reason for staying here. Also, Senior, did you notice that one of the Dalu Sword sect disciples revealed a glimmer of joy in his eyes? I checked his cultivation level and found him to be at the early stage of Ascendant. Or of everyone who has reached the Ascendant, which one isn't extremely cunning? How could he reveal such an obvious look of joy? That look of joy was obviously a signal. Wang Lin faintly smiled, and there was a flash of wisdom in his eyes. He analyzed. This Dalu Sword sect disciple is interesting. He is using that look of joy to tell us that they aren't together with Greed. That should be a plea for help. At novel bin at. Zhou Yi's figure appeared above the celestial sword. He meaningfully looked at Wang Lin with shock in his eyes. For the first time he felt Wang Lin's terror. Wang Lin's cultivation level was only at the early stage of Ascendant. If he hadn't given Wang Lin the Ascendant Crystal, Wang Lin probably wouldn't have managed to make it past the life and death trial. In Zhou Yi's mind, Wang Lin was a righteous and sentimental junior. Although he was grateful, Wang Lin didn't have the same status as him. However, Zhou Yi's impression of Wang Lin changed greatly after hearing Wang Lin's words. This child's schemes run deep and he makes very keen observations. It is something I rarely see. This wisdom is extremely terrifying, especially with how decisively this child acts. To be able to reach this cultivation level in merely 1,000 years was definitely not due to luck. I really underestimated him before. Wang Lin revealed a hint of a smile. He clasped his hands at Zhou Yi and said, Senior Zhou Yi Jr. has a request. Zhou Yi became focused as he looked at Wang Lin and asked, What? There was a hint of wisdom inside Wang Lin's eyes as he said, Senior should disperse your sword divine sense within this purple mist and make your presence as vague as possible. I'm going to go meet Greed and them. Zhou Yi nodded. You have to be careful going in by yourself. The weight of Wang Lin's words in his heart changed greatly after hearing Wang Lin speak. Wang Lin faintly smiled and said, Senior can rest assured. Earlier, that Greed only shouted instead of chasing after us like he was worried about something. He is a cautious person. Zhou Yi let out a sigh and his eyes revealed unreserved admiration for Wang Lin. Wang Lin was able to reach this conclusion from merely a few clues. This was not something ordinary people could do. Wang Lin pondered a bit and then said, Senior Junior has a guess that this Greed's purpose here is very likely for a token. This token is the only way to see Senior Qing Shuang's father, so there's no need for Senior to hold back. Zhou Yi's eyes became cold and he said in a serious tone, Wang Lin, you can rest assured. Wang Lin no longer spoke. He clasped his hands at Zhou Yi before stepping into the mist toward Greed and company. In truth, it wouldn't have been a bad idea for them to stay hidden inside the purple mist, and Zhou Yi could observe them with his sword divine sense. However, since they had already been discovered by Greed, then instead of hiding far away, he might as well just go and observe in person. Another important reason was Wang Lin wanted to know if Greed recognized him or not. Wang Lin was sure he had never met Greed before. Inside the mist, Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and moved forward. 5 kilometers wasn't far for him, even if there was mist. Soon he entered the open area 5 kilometers away. At the moment Wang Lin appeared, 6 gazes immediately fell on him. You, Wang Lin. One of the 5 disciples from the Dalu Sword sect immediately recognized Wang Lin. A killing intent suddenly came from the disciples of the Dalu Sword sect. The Dalu Sword Sect and the Heavenly Fate Sect had always been hostile toward each other, but there was no reason for them to start killing each other now. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as his gaze swept past everyone. His gaze didn't stop on Greed but swept by him. Greed's expression didn't change at all. He only looked toward Wang Lin the moment Wang Lin appeared, and then he closed his eyes. A low voice came from Chunlong's mouth. "I'm Chunlong. Are you the Heavenly Fate Sect's Purple Division's Wang Lin?" Wang Lin's expression was normal as he looked at Chunlong. He didn't speak and was waiting to see if these people of the Dalu Sword Sect were willingly staying here or were trapped here. This was very important, as if they were willingly staying here, then his earlier guess was wrong. What arrogance! My senior apprentice brother asked you a question and you dare to not answer? One of the Dalu Sword Sect disciples' impatience had reached an uncontrollable limit after being trapped here for 100 years. Now that he found a chance, he immediately shouted and stepped out. The treasured sword behind him flew out, and when he swung the sword down, a red and black horse appeared behind him. The horse's nose was green and gave off an evil aura. It melted into the sword and fused with the sword energy that was charging at Wang Lin. This person's cultivation was only at the late stage of soul transformation, but he didn't mind. Not only were there several people from his sect here, his senior apprentice brother was also here, so they naturally wouldn't let him suffer. This is how you treat your guests. Wang Lin didn't even look at the sword energy and calmly looked at Chunlong. He was sure now that the disciples of the Dalu Sword Sect were trapped. If they hadn't been trapped for a long time, would they be so impatient? Chunlong's eyes lit up, but just as he was about to speak, Wang Lin acted. The life seal on his forehead flashed and began to spread out from his body. It was like a light screen that expanded out and collided with the evil horse sword energy. There was a loud roar and Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Some of the life seals flew out and converted into slaughter energy. The slaughter energy tyrannically spread out, and the strands of slaughter energy quickly surrounded the horse. The Dalu Sword Sect disciples all stood up and were prepared to attack. However, at this moment, Chunlong coldly shouted, "All of you stand down." As he spoke, Chunlong's finger formed a sword. This sword stabbed at the slaughter energy like lightning. His finger contained a mysterious spell. After entering the slaughter energy, he kicked Wu Ma out of the encirclement. He turned around, completely ignoring the slaughter energy around him, and smiled at Wang Lin. "Fellow cultivator Wang, my junior apprentice brother was reckless. Sorry you had to see that." "No problem." Wang Lin's voice was calm as the slaughter energy around Chunlong wrapped around Wu Ma's sword. Then the slaughter energy returned to Wang Lin along with the sword. Wang Lin grabbed the sword before Chunlong and everyone else. He slapped the sword to remove the divine sense on it and put it in his bag like it was the natural thing to do. After being kicked by Chunlong, Wu Ma had his sword taken and divine sense wiped off the sword. His soul was damaged, causing him to cough out a mouthful of blood. He stared at Wang Lin and shouted, "You!" Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he calmly said, "Since you are fellow cultivator Chunlong's junior apprentice brother, I won't kill you for offending me. I'll keep this sword as a warning." Chunlong's gaze didn't change at all and he faintly smiled. "That's how it should be." He turned around and coldly looked at Wu Ma and said, "You shut up. Fellow cultivator Wang is not someone you can provoke. If you continue, I'll waste your cultivation in master's place." Wu Ma was obviously afraid of Chunlong, so he nodded and remained silent. Wang Lin's pupils shrank slightly. After he entered here, he purposely angered the people of the Dalu Sword Sect to see if they were trapped here. Then he even took Wu Ma's sword. But all of this was endured by Chunlong without the slightest change in his expression. Aside from the fact that Chunlong was a very cunning person, more importantly, it proved Wang Lin's speculation that they needed his help. Just at this moment, Greed opened his eyes. He coldly looked at Wang Lin and grimly said, "Little kid, why hasn't your friend come out?" Greed was secretly cursing. If it wasn't for the fact that the secretly dreaded the divine sense hidden in the purple mist, he would have restricted Wang Lin the moment he appeared. During the brief moment since Wang Lin appeared, although he had his eyes closed, he had adjusted his spells 3 times. However, all 3 times, at the moment he was about to act, the divine sense in the mist would suddenly appear as if it was warning him. Greed hesitated and gave up. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he said, "My friend's personality is cold and he doesn't like people. Is Senior also someone from the Dalu sword sect?" Greed looked at Wang Lin and revealed a sneer. Qianlong faintly smiled and introduced him. "Fellow cultivator Wang, this Senior here is Greed. He is an expert among our master's generation. Alas, if not for the fact that Senior is injured and can only use peak late-stage ascendant cultivation, he wouldn't have been trapped here for a century." Wang Lin thought, "This Qianlong is not simple. This person was able to point out all the key pieces of information in just a few sentences." Qianlong immediately said, "Senior Greed, since fellow cultivator Wang and his friend have come here, how about we join forces and try to break through together? Perhaps we will be able to break out from this siege by that herd of demonic beasts." Herd of demonic beasts. Wang Lin's expression was neutral, but this caught his attention. Greed's expression was neutral and he was about to refuse, but his eyes immediately narrowed. He felt like at that moment he saw the purple mist move for a moment like it had shrunk a bit. After looking at Qianlong, Greed nodded and said, "Since you are so worried about whether this old man will refuse again, you must think I'm up to no good. Forget it, let's try to break through again." Qianlong quickly shook his head and said, "Junior doesn't dare, but it is just that we have been trapped here for too long. I'm worried about my junior apprentice brothers in the demon spirit land." Greed sneered and jumped up from the ground. He led the way and charged directly into the mist. Qianlong took a deep breath. He clasped his hands at Wang Lin and whispered, "Brother Wang, let us put aside our sex differences for now. As long as one enters the mist, they won't be able to leave. There is only one exit from this mist, but unfortunately, it is surrounded by a herd of demonic beasts. If we want to leave, we must break through." Wang Lin nodded and flew out with Qianlong, and the other Dalu sword sect disciples following Greed. As Wang Lin flew, the life seals surrounded his body to defend himself. In truth, it wasn't only him. Qianlong also secretly used a spell to protect himself in case Wang Lin decided to launch a sneak attack. The rest of the Dalu sword sect disciples, especially Wu Ma, all looked at Wang Lin with vicious gazes. Everyone had their own plans as they charged into the purple mist and flew directly toward the exit. Greed was in front and was constantly on guard. He could vaguely feel a divine sense appearing and disappearing within the purple mist. He felt like if he let his guard down for a moment, that divine sense would attack him. Damn it! When did this Wang Lin get such a strong helper? Everyone moved very fast, so before long, they arrived at the edge of the exit of the purple mist. The purple mist wasn't as dense here and one could dimly see the outside. Their divine senses were able to spread out and see everything outside. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out. When he saw what was outside, he was startled and his eyes revealed a glimmer of shock. This is... He sucked in a breath of cold air. The scene before him caused Wang Lin to feel intense disbelief. He felt like he had returned back to the time he saw the memory of the ancient god. It was a mysterious planet filled with mosquito beasts. Wang Lin's shock was within Qianlong and company's expectations. However, they didn't know that not only had Wang Lin recognized these beasts, but he was very familiar with them. Even Greed wouldn't have expected this. The large group of mosquito beasts was densely packed, and they all let out loud cries. When they saw people appear, they raised their long mouths and revealed their fierce and tyrannical nature. At this moment, on the other side of the purple mist, Wang Lin's mosquito beast revealed half of its body. It stared at the dense group of mosquito beasts before him and was in a daze. When the mosquito was inside the bag of holding, it could feel an aura of anxiety it had never felt before in its life. However, this aura was also very familiar, as if it came from its soul. After flying out from the bag of holding, it lingered in the purple mist. It hesitated, as it wanted to get close but was also scared. Like a person who had been wandering for many years, he became timid when he saw his family once more. The mosquito beasts on the edge saw one of their kind and were also startled. Their fierce gazes immediately turned to it, but the fierceness quickly disappeared and was replaced with doubt. These mosquitoes let out cries and flew forward. They circled Wang Lin's mosquito a few times, and their large mouths would occasionally touch it. Then they flew back to the herd and let out a cry as if they were calling it back. Wang Lin's mosquito beast hesitated for a moment before following them and disappearing into the mosquito herd. No one noticed this scene. Greed pierced through the cloud and paused for a moment at the edge of the mist. However, just at this moment, he suddenly turned his head around and stared at the mist. The mist suddenly began to churn. This churning didn't only happen in one part of the mist. The entire purple mist began to churn. Thunderous roars came from within the mist. This was the sound of the friction that resulted from the mist rubbing against itself. This phenomenon immediately caught the attention of the people of the Dalu sword sect and Wang Lin. There was a hint of ecstasy in Greed's eyes. He noticed that there was something abnormal about the mist, which was why he agreed to Qianlong's request. At this moment, he took a deep breath and slapped his bag of holding to take out a little furnace. This furnace let out some purple mist that wrapped around Greed. Then he took a step and walked out of the purple mist. At this moment, his mind gave a command and the mosquito beasts outside the purple mist immediately let out cries. This sound could affect the soul. It passed through the purple mist and caused the Dalu sword sect disciples to become even more impatient. The purple mist began to churn even more, starting from the edge. If one looked at it from another angle, one would see that the purple mist was contracting at a rapid rate. Qianlong and company's expressions changed greatly, and they immediately wanted to rush out. However, just as they moved, they could hear Greed's laughter. He waved his sleeves and a wave of wind immediately appeared, causing the people of the Dalu sword sect to immediately stop. This old man has waited for 100 years, and now the purple mist will finally become one again. All of you will become sacrifices to fulfill this old man's wish. Greed's voice echoed inside the mist. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and at this moment Zhou Yi's voice echoed in his mind. At novel bin at. Wang Lin, there is celestial spiritual energy at the edge of the purple mist that can trap all cultivators. Unless one has a celestial root, they can't leave. However, it has no effect on me, so I can carry you out. Wang Lin looked at the Dalu sword sect's disciples and he immediately made a decision. He didn't immediately let Zhou Yi take him out but slowly backed away. The purple mist shrank like crazy and a thick layer of purple gas formed around its edge. No matter how hard the disciples of the Dalu sword sect tried, they couldn't break through the purple gas. The purple gas seemed to have corrosive properties, so they looked dispirited and irritated. One of the Dalu sword sect disciples even used Ling Tianho's sword energy, but it had no effect. It was quickly absorbed by the purple gas. Qianlong's expression changed greatly. He turned toward Wang Lin, who was backing off, and urgently shouted, "Brother Wang, right now we are facing a crisis. Can your friend help?" Wang Lin, this old man originally didn't want to kill you so early, but since you ran head first into this matter, no one can save you. Greed's voice slowly entered the purple mist. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He didn't speak but quickly retreated. At this moment, the purple mist was rapidly contracting. If he retreated too slowly and was invaded by the purple gas, there might be other dangers. The Dalu sword sect disciples also quickly retreated, and Qianlong urgently shouted, "Fellow cultivator Wang, fellow cultivator Qianlong, I don't even have the ability to save myself, so please don't mention this matter." Wang Lin shook his head and immediately disappeared into the purple mist. Zhou Yi's celestial sword circled around his body. "You!" Qianlong's expression was gloomy and he let out a sigh. The Heavenly Fate sect and the Dalu sword sect were like fire and water. He understood why Wang Lin refused to help. "I'm to blame for hesitating so much. If I had decided earlier to rebel against greed, we wouldn't have ended up like this if we used Master's sword energy." There was regret in Qianlong's eyes. However, Greed was a senior from his master's generation, so he knew of their sword energy. He understood that even if they used their master's sword energy, he was afraid Greed would already be prepared for it. As a result, victory was not certain. Also, it was very likely that all of his junior apprentice brothers would die. He wasn't willing to pay such a price for his suspicion, so that was why he couldn't be decisive and had waited a century. At this moment, the purple mist rapidly shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it became 10 times smaller than before. As the purple mist shrank, the purple gas at the edge became even stronger. The people of the Dalu sword sect constantly retreated. "Wang Lin, if we don't leave, it will be hard to rush out," even with my abilities. Zhou Yi's anxious voice echoed in Wang Lin's mind. Wait a bit more. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He was still inside the mist. As he looked at the Dalu sword sect disciples in the distance, his eyes became cold. 5 people. 4 rays of Ling Tianho's sword energy, 5 treasured swords. Wang Lin's eyes became even colder. Qianlong's eyes revealed sadness as he looked at the junior apprentice brothers beside him. He closed his eyes, then he suddenly opened them and his eyes contained a rare hint of decisiveness. Fellow junior apprentice brothers. I'm sorry. I'm really useless. Qianlong clenched his teeth and quickly pointed to between his eyebrows. A ray of red light immediately appeared between his eyebrows. This red light turned into sword energy. This was Ling Tianho's sword energy, but it was several times stronger than the ones Wang Lin had seen. It was on a completely different level compared to the others. This sword energy was formed when Ling Tianho refined the 4 small worlds into the 4 swords. It was one of the life sword energies that he refined inside his soul. The 11 strands of sword energy that he gave the other disciples were things he created by simply waving his hand. The difference was too big. It was because he had this strand of sword energy that he regretted that he wasn't decisive enough to act sooner. The moment the sword energy appeared, the shrinking purple mist slowed for a moment. Outside, Greed's eyes turned cold. He quickly noticed that there was something not right about this Qianlong, and he had guessed correctly. Qianlong let out a sigh. Then the sword energy surrounded his body. He rushed directly at the purple gas, and at the moment he collided with the purple gas, there was a loud sound as if there was intense friction. It looked like there was fire around Qianlong's body. In the end, a small opening appeared in the purple mist and Qianlong charged out with the sword energy. It wasn't that he didn't want to take his junior apprentice brothers with him, but he calculated that if he took even one person, he wouldn't be able to break through. At the moment Qianlong charged out, the purple mist immediately condensed even more. The purple mist was so dense that one couldn't see inside it anymore. Not even sound could escape the mist at this point. The 4 Dalu sword sect disciples' eyes were filled with despair. Wuma let out an angry roar. 3 junior apprentice brothers, since things are already like this, why despair? I know that Wang Lin is still in here. Help me kill this man so that I have no regrets. After he said that, the other 3 Dalu sword sect disciples released killing intent. Indeed, if they were going to die, they might as well kill that heavenly fate sect person. If it wasn't for that person appearing, they might have had a chance to survive. Wang Lin, you still aren't going out. What are you waiting for? Zhou Yi was already roaring inside Wang Lin's mind. Senior, help me lock onto the other 4 with your sword divine sense. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he moved like lightning. In the purple mist where divine sense was obstructed, he was like a ghost. Wang Lin, in 10 breaths of time, even if you resist, I'm taking you outside. After Zhou Yi sent this message, he spread out his sword divine sense through the shrinking purple mist and locked on to the 4 people of the Dalu sword sect. Wang Lin moved like lightning toward one of them. This person had the lowest cultivation level among the 4, only mid-stage soul transformation. This person's divine sense was useless in the purple mist. It was as if he was blind and deaf in this situation. The moment Wang Lin closed in, this person only felt a breeze. However, this breeze quickly became cold, and it left with his head. Wang Lin held the head with the sword energy locked inside. After putting away the treasured sword, he charged toward the next target. She controlled his treasured sword, but he was frustrated and his eyes contained despair. He opened his eyes wide, but he could only see 7 feet before him. Everything after that was just purple mist. His eyes suddenly blurred as if he had seen a figure flash before him. Who? Sishi's heart trembled and he immediately threw his sword into the mist. However, at the moment he threw the sword, he felt a cold hand press against the back of his neck. He felt his origin soul tremble, and the life force inside him instantly left his body. After letting out a miserable scream, his body was mummified. However, at the moment he died, Ling Tianho's sword energy inside his body suddenly erupted and collapsed along with his body. Wu Ma's eyes were completely red. After losing his treasured sword, he hated Wang Lin to the bone. Now that he had activated Ling Tianho's sword energy, if he felt as much as a breeze, he would immediately release it. At this moment, The purple mist before him churned as if someone was rushing over. Wu Ma's eyes became ferocious and he shouted, "Wang Lin, die!" He was just about to release Ling Tianho's sword energy in his hand when his junior apprentice brother Su Go's voice suddenly appeared. "Senior apprentice brother, it's me." Wu Ma was startled and he withdrew his right hand. However, just as he was about to speak, a hand silently appeared from the mist on his right. A forefinger touched the spot between Wu Ma's eyebrows. Wu Ma's eyes bulged and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and he wanted to reactivate the sword energy he just withdrew. But there was no chance. After exactly 10 breaths of time, Zhou forcibly took Wang Lin and charged out of the purple mist. Unfortunately, there's still one sword. Wang Lin let out a sigh. From the 4 Delu sword sect disciples, he only managed to get 2 more rays of sword energy. Adding the one he had before, he now had 3. The 4 of them had been trapped in the purple mist for a century, so they were very impatient and felt despair to the point of collapse after Qian Long left. If it wasn't for those and various other reasons, even Wang Lin couldn't have taken the sword energies in just 10 breaths of time. Even so, one of them was still able to successfully activate the sword energy. Fortunately, Wang Lin was prepared, so he wasn't injured. If it was another location and conditions were different, Wang could only retreat when facing 4 Delu sword sect disciples with Ling Tianho's sword energy. He wasn't afraid of the 4 of them, but he was very cautious of the sword energies. Zhou personally witnessed this, and his admiration for Wang Lin increased. Wang Lin acted boldly and decisively. If it was someone else, they would have only thought about escaping and would not have considered anything else. He didn't know that compared to back when Wang Lin was at the Sea of Devils, Wang Lin took the chance when the dragon died at the graveyard to take its body away before it fell into the pit. Compared to that, this really wasn't much. The mist shrank like crazy. Right now it wasn't even 1,000 feet wide. Outside the purple mist, Qian Long's expression was extremely gloomy. Ling Tianho's sword energy was in his hand, emitting a harsh light. Countless mosquito beasts had surrounded him and were currently fighting him. Greed, I want to see how you will explain this to my master in the future. Greed was standing in the distance and was surrounded by mosquito beasts. The mosquito beasts were extremely tyrannical and their eyes were filled with a fierce light. If it wasn't for the constant roars coming from within the group, they would have already pounced even if it was greed. Even after controlling the king beast, which allowed him to indirectly manipulate the herd, Greed still didn't dare to get too close to these mosquito beasts. These mosquito beasts' nature was too violent and they couldn't be tamed at all. If he slightly let his guard down, he would suffer an attack from them. If there were only dozens, he wouldn't care. If there were hundreds, it still wouldn't be a big deal. Even if there were thousands, at most his expression would change. However, there were tens of thousands of mosquito beasts here. As a result, how could his scalp not go numb? Even though he had control, he was still very cautious. When your master learns of this matter, I'll naturally have an explanation. Also, it's not known if he will even find out about this matter. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's figure appeared from the purple mist. As he stood on top of the celestial sword, it released powerful sword energy. At novel bin at. Wang Lin's appearance immediately made Greed's eyes become cold. He sneered and sent out a command with his mind. A large group of the mosquito beasts immediately let out a roar and charged toward Wang Lin. Greed let out a cold snort. He didn't intend to immediately kill Wang Lin, but wanted to extract his origin soul to find Situnan's whereabouts. When he saw Wang Lin outside the East Demon Spirit Sea for a moment, he felt Situnan's aura on Wang Lin. Wang Lin looked at the mosquito beasts coming at him and revealed a strange expression. Just at this moment, an even more sharp cry suddenly came from inside the herd that completely replaced the previous roar. At the same time, a purple figure rushed out toward Wang Lin. This figure was Wang Lin's mosquito beast. This mosquito pierced through the group of its kind like a ray of purple light and let out a roar. It went straight toward Wang Lin. When it arrived next to Wang Lin, its huge mouth gently rubbed Wang Lin, and its eyes were filled with excitement. The group of mosquito beasts rushing toward Wang Lin all stopped. Although their eyes were still vicious, there was a flash of doubt in their eyes. The scene caused Greed to become completely dumbfounded. This even caused Qian Long's eyes to light up brightly. Greed's face was gloomy as his hand formed a seal and he shouted, "7 magic needle imprint." A sharp cry came from within the depths of the herd, and the large swarm of mosquitoes immediately opened a path. From the center of the herd, a giant mosquito with 7 silver needles stuck in its head slowly flew out. There was struggle within its red eyes. The mosquito beast stared at Greed and let out a roar. Greed let out a roar and the silver needles on its head sank in 3 more inches. The mosquito's body trembled and the struggle in its eyes became even stronger. At novel bin at. However, its eyes immediately showed a trace of resolve as it let out a loud cry filled with death. Its gaze moved like lightning and landed on Wang Lin's mosquito beast. Wang Lin's mosquito was startled as it flapped its wings and flew away from Wang Lin. It went directly toward its companion and immediately arrived on the back of the giant mosquito. Its large mouth suddenly stabbed into the body of the giant mosquito. As it began to suck, the struggle in the giant mosquito's eyes disappeared and was replaced by a glimmer of relief. The suction was completed in almost an instant. As the giant mosquito withered, Wang Lin's mosquito gradually grew. Its body got larger and the purple on it became more dense. Then an aura that could only be felt by their own kind spread out. This happened extremely fast. Wang Lin's mosquito beast suddenly raised its head and stared at Greed before letting out a roar. All of the mosquito's gazes immediately fell on Greed, and then they immediately charged toward him. Greed's scalp went numb. His hand formed a seal and the 7 silver needles immediately came out of the withered mosquito corpse and flew back to him. The silver needles formed a silver light screen next to him, and then he immediately charged off to the side. Wang Lin took a deep breath and backed up. His right forefinger suddenly pointed at Greed and a finger of death shot out toward him. In the distance, all of the mosquitoes around Qianlong had left, and his eyes had become cold as well. Without any hesitation, his right hand formed a seal and the giant sword behind him flew out. A black dragon with intelligent eyes appeared and let out a roar. He shot a ray of sword energy directly at Greed. Although the two of them had never cooperated before, reaching this far in cultivation proved that they both had good insight. Their timing was great and both of their attacks were in the way of Greed's path of retreat. Greed's pupils shrank. He knew that he must not be surrounded by the mosquito beasts, or else he would die for sure. He let out a cold snort. He had cultivated for tens of thousands of years and had faced scenes like this many times. He backed up while his right hand formed a seal and he clawed at the wall. He shouted, "Death Devourer first style." This claw caused a large amount of green gas to come out from the wall. There was simply too much green gas. The green gas gathered together and formed a green waterfall. The green waterfall was pulled out from the wall as Greed moved his right hand. His eyes glowed green as he threw the green waterfall behind him. The green gas suddenly shot out like a ray of light crossing the sky. Wang Lin's finger of death turned green after touching the green gas and collapsed immediately after. Qianlong's dragon sword spirit let out a roar when it touched the green gas. On impact, the dragon spirit immediately collapsed and the sword flew back toward Qianlong. "You little juniors dare to provoke old man Greed." Greed let out a shout as he quickly moved. He was about to rush out of the mosquito beast's siege. If he was able to escape the siege, no one would be able to stop him if he wished to fight or leave. Qianlong shouted, "Wang Lin, we shouldn't hold back. Let's work together to kill this old thief. Otherwise, both of us will die." He spat out a mouthful of origin blood essence and it fell on his sword. The sword began to tremble and cracks appeared all over it. Pieces of metal began to flake off as if the sword was shedding its skin. The pieces that fell off contained bloodlust. They once again formed the black dragon and charged out with power several times stronger than before. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he touched the spot between his eyebrows with his right hand. A large amount of slaughter energy came out and gathered on his fingertip. The slaughter energy rapidly condensed. 1 million into 100,000, 100,000 into 1,000, 1,000 into only 1. Aside from the one strand he kept in his origin soul, all the other strands had been condensed at Wang Lin's fingertip into one strand. The dense strand of slaughter energy shot out after being flicked by Wang Lin. Ling Tianho's broken sword spirit, and the all-seer's celestial slaughter art. Greed's eyes glowed brightly, but there was a hint of mockery in them. He retreated and said, "Although these two spells are powerful, Your mastery over them isn't complete. Before this old man's eyes, they are simply too weak. Greed slapped his bag of holding and a small mountain immediately flew out. After the mountain flew out, it immediately grew into a mountain several hundred feet tall and floated in the air. This mountain was covered in carvings of mysterious runes. As the small mountain moved, the runes flashed and the mountain became very strange. Greed's right hand turned into a claw once more. He placed his hand on the mountain and shouted, "Death Devourer second style. Extract mountain's soul." The entire mountain trembled and an ancient aura suddenly appeared from within the mountain. It was like the aura of an ancient cultivator who had cultivated for countless years. This was the mountain's soul. As Greed shouted, this aura was pulled out by him. An illusion of the mountain appeared and was pulled out by Greed. An incomparably powerful aura immediately appeared. After the mountain's soul was extracted, it began to tremble and countless cracks appeared. Eventually, the entire mountain collapsed into rubble and fell from the sky. However, the illusionary mountain soul was still in Greed's hand. This old man's cultivation can't compare to old child Ling Tian or that old thief All-Seer. But this old man Greed's spells have no flaws. You juniors merely learned other spells and really think they are your own. Greed's eyes were filled with mockery as his right hand pressed down. With a loud bang, the mountain soul descended. The black dragon formed by Chunlong's broken sword let out a whimper as the incredible pressure from the mountain soul pressed down. After a series of rumbles, the black dragon was trapped under the pressure of the mountain soul. Chunlong's expression turned pale. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and his eyes filled with shock. What is this spell? Wang Lin's slaughter energy flew through the air, and the mountain soul seemed unable to stop it. The slaughter energy pierced through the mountain soul. Wang Lin's eyes turned cold and he shouted, "Scatter!" The slaughter energy that pierced into the mountain soul scattered. It turned from 1 to 1 million. 1 million strands of slaughter energy moved within the mountain soul. It was as if they wanted to rush out from the mountain soul and tear it into pieces. However, powerful celestial spiritual energy came out from the mountain soul, and in the blink of an eye, the strands of slaughter energy collapsed one by one. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. If it wasn't for the fact that he always kept one strand in his soul to allow him to endlessly recover his slaughter energy, he would have been greatly pained by the loss. There is even celestial spiritual energy within the mountain soul. This celestial spiritual energy doesn't look like it came from greed. It seems to belong to the mountain itself. Wang Lin's expression sank. With the help of the mountain soul, Greed was finally able to escape the mosquito beast's siege. He laughed loudly. "Little juniors, do you know what mountain this is? This is a mountain from the celestial realm. This old man pulled it out tens of thousands of years ago and sealed it." Just at this moment, the constantly shrinking purple mist was about to finish. It shrank from 1,000 feet into 10 feet, forming a dense ball of purple mist. There was still no sound coming from inside the ball of mist, but Wang Lin knew that there was one living person inside. A Dalu sword sect disciple. With a bang, the 10-foot ball of mist shrank again and was now 7 feet. A token gradually began to appear inside the mist. This token was made of the mist and was quickly condensing. There was a trace of greed in Greed's eyes. He was about to rush toward the token when the large mosquito herd behind him suddenly let out a fierce roar. The mosquito beasts charged out one by one like crazy, completely disregarding their own lives. Their speed was several times faster than before. Their sudden movement caused Greed's expression to immediately change. Wang Lin's mosquito inside the herd let out a roar, and suddenly all of the mosquitoes' bodies released red light. Those closest to Greed unexpectedly collapsed into large clouds of flesh and blood that gave off a red glow. They arrived directly next to Greed, and then mysteriously formed back into mosquito beasts again. Not only did those mosquitoes use this spell, every mosquito beast did. They all collapsed and restored themselves in the next instant. They all did this in an instant and completely trapped Greed. The purple mist rapidly contracted and the token inside became more solid. In an instant, the final step was complete. After all the mist dissipated, an ancient token giving off purple light floated in the air. There was golden light mixed in with the purple light. Wang Lin's and Chunlong's gazes fell on the token at this moment. Chunlong immediately charged out toward the token. No one dared to use teleportation near the exit. The pressure here was too great, so if anyone tried to teleport, they would be trapped in the void. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he flew out at the same time. His hand formed a seal and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body surged. He was preparing the stop spell. You juniors dare! Just at this moment, an angry roar came from within the herd of mosquito beasts as Qianlong rushed forth. Ling Tianho's sword energy gathered in his hand. The sword energy circled around his hand and then a pressure spread out. Wang Lin's pupils shrank. He had already noticed that there was something wrong with the ray of Ling Tianho's sword energy that belonged to Qianlong. At the moment the sword energy appeared, Wang Lin immediately felt his heart tighten. This is Ling Tianho's life sword energy. Very powerful. Zhou Yi's voice entered Wang Lin's mind. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he stopped moving. He no longer chased after the token and held back the celestial spell in his hand as he coldly looked at Qianlong. Qianlong was extremely flashy and suddenly appeared next to the token. His eyes were filled with joy. He didn't know what it was, but for it to be something even greed cared so much about, it had to be a rare treasure. However, just as he reached out toward the token, greed's angry roar came from within the mosquito herd. Junior Qianlong, this old man will kill you. Death Devourer third style. Greed's voice was like lightning. It seemed to turn solid as it went through the mosquito herd, passed by Wang Lin, and charged directly at Qianlong. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he immediately retreated a few steps. The roar charged out from the mosquito herd and began to take form. Suddenly, a crystal-clear small person appeared in the air. This person didn't look like Greed at all, but his body gave off Greed's aura. Second origin soul. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of air as he stared at the small person. Greed was so angry that his anger was enough to burn his heart. He was helpless, so he could only send out his second origin soul, while his main body was trapped by the mosquito herd. The 7 needles rapidly rotated around him. They could guard him for a bit, but not for too long. These mosquitoes' bodies were extremely tough, especially their mouths, which were as hard as iron essence. If that was only the case, it wouldn't be too bad, but whenever a mosquito was killed, they would immediately collapse into a red cloud. The red cloud would retreat and instantly condense back into a mosquito beast. Although it would be weaker, it would once again fiercely pounce at him. After this small person appeared, he immediately turned into a ray of light. His hand formed a seal and black lightning began to appear around his body. Then the black lightning moved like meteors toward Qianlong. Qianlong's expression changed. If he didn't withdraw his right hand, he would be hit by the black lightning. However, everything would have been in vain if did. Going to risk it. Qianlong clenched his teeth and threw out Ling Tianho's sword energy. The sword energy flew through the air and shook the heavens and earth. Even the cliff of the abyss rumbled under the might of the sword energy. Endless gravel and soil fell from the cliff. The lightning bolts released by Greed's second origin soul touched the sword energy and collapsed one by one. Powerful force was scattered in all directions. The life seals appeared over Wang Lin's body as he backed up, but his eyes were bright like a torch. After releasing his master's sword energy, Qianlong seized the token without any hesitation. His eyes were filled with ecstasy. He immediately flew upwards, wanting to escape. Greed's second origin soul let out a roar and wanted to chase. However, Ling Tianho's sword energy was simply too strong, and it even contained Qianlong's divine sense, so it was easily controlled. The sword energy repeatedly blocked the second origin soul's path and constantly pushed it back. Greed's second origin soul didn't dare to touch the sword energy. He knew that his second origin soul would be seriously injured by it, so he could only wait until the sword energy dissipated. Trapped by the mosquito beasts, Greed's eyes revealed a hint of determination. His heart ached, but he immediately touched his bag of holding. He took out a finger-sized piece of sandalwood. At novel bin at. The moment it appeared, it released a fragrance. This sandalwood looked very normal, as if it was something that belonged to the mortal world, but Greed's eyes were filled with sadness. Child, you forced this old man to use a treasure of the celestial world, heaven confusion incense. This old will definitely cut you into pieces. Greed clenched his teeth and raised his left hand. He immediately lit the incense and a blue smoke began to rise from it. This smoke was extremely strange. When it spread out, although it was thin, it immediately formed a cloud. The mosquito beasts were all suddenly trapped in this mist, and at the same time, Greed rushed out from the mosquito herd. He stepped on the smoke and chased after Qianlong. Senior Greed, fellow cultivator Wang Lin, I'll be taking this token. Many thanks. Qianlong laughed. He was already looking at the exit in the distance. Wang Lin sneered as he stared at Qianlong's figure in the distance. His eyes gave off a ghostly light as he said to himself, "Stop!" The power of the low-quality celestial spell that could seal the heavens and freeze the earth went forth. A mysterious force immediately filled the abyss. If there was a powerful cultivator here, they would see that the area was filled with invisible threads. These invisible threads immediately wrapped around Qianlong. Qianlong only felt his body stop, and even his origin soul stopped. Also, the celestial spiritual energy inside his body stopped moving as if it was frozen solid. At this instant, he became completely motionless, and the token fell from his hand. Greed was extremely joyous as the smoke he released surrounded Qianlong. He charged directly at the token. Just at this moment, Wang Lin moved. Zhou Yi's celestial sword was under Wang Lin's feet, and they rushed out. The speed of the celestial sword was too fast. So fast that even Greed's expression changed. Wang Lin, you aren't qualified to rob treasures from this old man. Greed was very close to the token. It looked like he only needed to extend his hand to reach the token. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he softly said, "Stop!" Greed paused for a moment. Although he immediately returned to normal and all the threads that had wrapped around him broke, with the help of the celestial sword, Wang Lin immediately closed in. In front of Greed's bulging eyes, Wang Lin took the token and swept past Greed. "Wang Lin, you dare to steal this old man's things." Greed's eyes were bloodshot as he roared and rushed out. Qianlong had already recovered, and his expression was gloomy. Surrounded by the smoke, his hand formed a seal. He wanted to break through, but the smoke blocked his path and he couldn't escape. The three of them were very close to the exit in the Fire Demon country. Wang Lin was very close to the exit thanks to Zhou Yi's speed. At this moment, the sunlight from the outside could be seen. Greed almost went crazy. As he let out a roar, he slapped his bag of holding and a giant furnace flew out. This furnace was about as big as a person and was completely black. There were countless beast-shaped runes on the furnace, and it gave off a desolate aura. Greed shouted, "Revert the universe, reverse the heavens and earth." The furnace shook and a ray of black light shot out. The black light quickly covered the heavens and earth. At this moment, it was as if the heavens and earth had reversed positions. The heavens became the earth became the heavens. Wang Lin's, Qianlong's, and Greed's positions suddenly reversed. Originally, Wang Lin was in front, but now he was where Qianlong was, surrounded by the smoke. As for Qianlong, he appeared where Wang Lin was. He was startled for a moment and was scared out of his wits. Without a word, he charged toward the exit. He was afraid. He didn't expect this Greed to have such incredible magical treasures. This treasure was simply too strong. It could reverse the universe. At the moment he switched positions with Wang Lin, he felt a divine power. Compared to that divine power, he was simply too insignificant. This Greed is indeed worthy of being someone from Master's generation. Although his cultivation level is far inferior to Master's, there must be something special about him if he caught Master's attention. He didn't know that Greed never went anywhere without treasures. Over the countless years, Greed had obtained enough treasures to rival any celestial palace. However, a lot of the treasures he obtained were things he couldn't even use himself, and he was extremely cautious because he was afraid of others stealing from him. Whenever he felt like something was wrong, he would immediately run away. Greed breathed heavily and suddenly turned his head. He stared at Wang Lin, who was trapped in the smoke, and closed in with a grin. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air and stared at the furnace. There was a mysterious light in his eyes. He recognized that furnace. Without hesitation, he put the token inside his bag of holding. The celestial sword under his feet hummed and Zhou Yi's divine sense message entered his mind. What a powerful treasure! Wang Lin, keep yourself safe. Zhou Yi's celestial sword flashed and a ray of sword energy flew out. The sword energy surrounded the sword and the celestial sword began to spin. The smoke surrounding them immediately began to swell, and then Joey shouted, "Open!" With a bang, an opening appeared in the smoke. The celestial sword rushed out. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he rushed out as well. This person's cultivation is ordinary, but his treasures are mysterious. Just how did a person like this obtain so many magical treasures? After Joey rushed out, his celestial sword stabbed toward Greed. Greed's eyes lit up brightly. He retreated and once again slapped his bag of holding. This action not only caused Joey to pause, it even made Wang Lin's heart skip a beat. Wang Lin, this old man has to thank Situ Nan. If not for him, how could I have been forced to stay at the waste planet of Suzaku for tens of thousands of years? If it wasn't for those tens of thousands of years, I couldn't have understood a lot of these treasures I couldn't use before. As Greed raised his right hand, a screen appeared in his right hand. After throwing the screen, it immediately grew to 100 feet wide. There was an ink painting of a landscape with mountains on the screen. Mist filled the mountains, making it give off the aura of a celestial world. This old man wasn't able to find the celestial realm's mountain and river painting, but I found an imprint of it on this screen. Gather for me. As Greed shouted, a large suction force came from the screen. Zhouyi's figure appeared from the celestial sword. He had a serious expression, and his right hand pointed forward. Without any hesitation, he released one of the two remaining life sword energies. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy, and he immediately activated Ling Tianho's sword energy inside his body. The sword energy opened a path through the pressure as he rushed down. Behind him, Greed's second origin soul, which was covered in countless lightning bolts, chased slowly after Wang Lin, with the sword energy making a path. Wang Lin used all of his speed and moved like a meteor toward the bottom. He didn't bother with Zhouyi right now because although Greed had a lot of treasures, Zhouyi wouldn't be defeated easily. What he needed to do now was open as much distance as possible to stall for time until Zhouyi arrived. This Greed has too many treasures. I don't know how many more strange treasures he has in that bag of his. Even if Senior Zhouyi wins, I'm afraid it will take some time. Wang Lin frowned. The sword energy continued to break the resistance as he rushed downward. Behind him, Greed's second origin soul chased closely after. This second origin soul was like a small person made of crystal. Black lightning bolts surrounded this small person. The resistance coming from below was broken by the balls of lightning. His eyes glowed as he stared at Wang Lin. His right hand formed a seal and he slapped his palm down. 9 of the balls of lightning around him immediately lined up like a string of beads. It pierced through the resistance like a fierce arrow and flew directly at Wang Lin. Thunder! Wang Lin's head suddenly turned around and he slapped his bag of holding. The god-slaying war chariot immediately flew out. It quickly formed a ball of lightning in the air. The ball quickly expanded and turned into a mighty thunder beast. The thunder beast was a celestial thunder beast. After it appeared, it snorted out 2 strands of green gas. Its eyes contained lightning. Under its gaze, not only did the 9 balls of thunder not slow down, they flew even faster. The thunder beast opened its mouth and let out a roar. The 9 balls of thunder suddenly trembled, and then instead of going to Wang Lin, they flew toward the thunder beast and were instantly swallowed by it. Greed's second origin soul's eyes immediately lit up. He moved his body and all the black thunder around him rained down on Wang Lin and the thunder beast. At the same time, the second origin soul slapped his forehead. A hammer covered in lighting immediately appeared. He grabbed the hammer and slammed it down. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The thunderous roar of thunder exploded forth as lighting shot out from the hammer. The lightning moved like a dragon that was clawing toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he slapped his bag of holding, taking out the celestial brush. He took a deep breath and immediately drew in front of him. A 5-stroke symbol suddenly appeared, and he inserted 5 portions of his origin soul into it. The golden symbol released a blinding light. After it appeared, it shined like the sun. At the moment the dragon arrived, the 2 sides collided in the air. A loud bang echoed in the abyss, causing a large amount of rocks to fall from the cliff. Those rocks were pushed upward by the resistance force. For this instant, even the resistance force coming from below slowed for a moment. The symbol split into 5 pieces of divine sense and returned to Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's body staggered and his face became pale. Without pause, he flew down again. The lightning dragon didn't change at all, but it stayed in the air completely motionless. When the resistance force pushed against it, countless cracks appeared on it and it collapsed. As for the thunder beast, when the balls of thunder arrived, it opened its mouth and happily ate one ball of thunder every time it opened its mouth. Even the collapsing lightning dragon was devoured by the thunder beast as it passed by. Then it looked at Greed's second origin soul with a provoking gaze before following Wang Lin. Greed's second origin soul's eyes were filled with cold intent and he said, in a hoarse voice, "Damned beast." He waved the thunder hammer in his hand and it began to glow red. He quickly chased after Wang Lin as the red light on the hammer became stronger and stronger. Finally, the hammer started releasing a blood-colored light. As Wang Lin was escaping, he suddenly felt powerful thunder behind him, causing his even hair to tingle. The thunder beast also became serious. It looked back and let out low growls. What spirit exactly is Greed's second origin soul? Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. The resistance was getting stronger, but Ling Tianho's sword energy was very strong. Wang Lin wasn't affected at all with the sword energy opening the path. He moved like lightning as he rushed downward. Greed's second origin soul chased closely after Wang Lin. The distance between them constantly changed as they charged toward the bottom. However, the closer they got to the bottom, the stronger the resistance became. In the end, their speed slowed down. Greed's second origin soul slowly said, "Celestial destroying thunder." He waved the hammer in his hand and the red light on the hammer flew out as a ray of lightning. It didn't charge toward Wang Lin or the thunder beast, but instead drilled into the cliff of the abyss. Wang Lin's pupils suddenly shrank and he suddenly felt a sense of crisis. At this moment, he grabbed the thunder beast without any hesitation and put it back into his bag. All of the life seals gathered on his body, and at the same time, he took out a large amount of blood jades. He crushed them all. These blood jades came from Yao Shishue. Now that he crushed them, the thick blood-colored light immediately surrounded him, forming layers and layers of protection. Almost at the moment Wang Lin finished all of this, a flash of red light came from the side of the cliff. Red dots suddenly appeared on the cliff surface. These dots became larger and faster at the same time. Then the dots suddenly burst out from the wall and formed a net of red lightning. The red lightning around Wang Lin immediately pierced through the shield of blood light, creating loud bangs. Some even reached Wang Lin and was stopped by the life seals. Wang Lin's expression became even more gloomy. He slapped his bag of holding and the three swords appeared. After infusing Ling Tianho's sword energy into them, Wang Lin pointed at Greed's second origin soul, and the swords charged toward Greed's second origin soul. "Since you want to fight, let's fight." Wang Lin no longer tried to escape. Although this was very close to the abyss, the resistance here was simply too big, so it would be difficult to pass. Adding on how vicious this second origin soul was, Wang Lin was angered. The three sword formed a formation and charged out. The mouse, pig, and sheep evil spirits emerged and fused with Ling Tianho's sword energy. They pierced through the lightning net and gave off thick sword energy as they stabbed toward Greed's second origin soul. Greed's second origin soul shined brightly and its eyes became serious. He slammed the hammer in the air, and then lightning dragons appeared and started circling around him. When the three swords arrived, the three evil spirits flew out and began fighting with the lightning dragons. The three swords circled around and suddenly stabbed forth. However, they were blocked by the lightning dragons and weren't able to stab into the second origin soul. If Ling Tianho's sword energy wasn't there, Greed's second origin soul wouldn't care so much. However, the sword energies inside the swords made him very cautious. As he couldn't allow the sword energies to enter his body, he decided to constantly use the lightning dragons to weaken the sword energies. A mark gradually appeared between the eyebrows of Greed's second origin soul as he waved the thunder hammer. This mark was very deep and flashed slowly. Wang Lin was covered by the blood light. Without Ling Tianho's sword energy, he could feel the powerful resistance force below him. He flew upward, borrowing the resistance force from the tide abyss. He moved at a speed several times faster than before as he flew through the lightning net and charged straight at the second origin soul. The majority of the blood light around him had already dissipated. He had to constantly crush blood jades to continue protecting himself. If there was no blood light to act as a shield, he would be facing a life and death trial inside this lightning net. even if he used 1 million life seals. Back then, the gray-robed all-seer said that the defense of the life seals was extremely powerful, and this is true when facing ordinary spells. However, when facing someone stronger than me, it simply won't be enough. Either the celestial slaughter art is imperfect, or the gray-robed all-seer deceived me. He immediately saw the mark between Greed's second origin soul's eyebrows. That is the seal Greed uses to control the second origin soul. I need to smash it. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. The lightning net was too dense, and it closed in as he moved, making the net even more powerful. However, at this moment, Greed's second origin soul's eyes became cold and the lightning net around Wang Lin immediately contracted. Countless rays of lightning began to gather toward Wang Lin. At this moment, Wang Lin gave up on his defense. His eyes became red and he shouted, "Very well, either I kill you or I die today." The three swords moved even faster. It was as if they felt Wang Lin's killing intent. Ling Tianho's sword energy spread out from the three swords. "Stop!" A loud roar came from Wang Lin. At this moment, the celestial spell Stop was used by Wang Lin at full power. Greed's second origin soul's arm suddenly paused. Wang Lin's eyes glowed brightly and he shouted, "Kill!" In an instant, the three swords' auras reached their peaks and moved through the lightning dragons. All three swords stabbed into Greed's second origin soul and pierced his body. Ling Tianho's sword energy charged into Greed's second origin soul without any hesitation and began to rampage inside his spirit body. Greed's second origin soul's body trembled, and the seal between his eyebrows flickered like crazy. The seal spread all over his body, trying to resist this destructive force. At this moment, the lightning net contracting toward Wang Lin suddenly collapsed. Wang Lin rushed out and slapped his bag of holding. The devilish amour immediately appeared over his body. The devilish energy spread out and he suddenly raised his finger. The demonic finger was used, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body transformed. At the same time, Wang Lin pointed again, and the underworld finger was used. The moment the underworld finger appeared, the underworld river appeared as well and charged out along with the underworld finger. Wang Lin closed in with the help of the two spells. His speed increased with the help of the resistance force. Wang Lin arrived next to Greed's second origin soul, and pressed the two spells into him. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot as he shouted, "Explode for me!" The seal between Greed's second origin soul's eyebrows flashed violently, trying to return back to normal. However, Wang Lin's two spells landed another fatal blow. So the seal collapsed. Along with the seal, the body of Greed's second origin soul also began to collapse. Countless cracks appeared on its crystal body. However, just at this moment, Wang Lin's expression changed. He recalled the three swords and quickly retreated. A desolate aura spread out like crazy from the cracks of the second origin soul, and there was an unimaginable aura leaking out from the cracks. It was the aura of a beast. At Novel bin at. The three evil spirits on the three swords immediately trembled. At the abyss exit, Greed, who was fighting with Zhou Yi, trembled violently and coughed out a mouthful of blood. He looked below him with an aghast expression. This! Greed's second origin soul exploded with a bang, but at the moment it collapsed, a green light shot out from between its eyebrows. A thick, desolate aura spread out from the green light. The moment the green light appeared, it turned into a green dragon. Lightning circulated all over this dragon. It was extremely terrifying. This was an ancient thunder dragon, and it was very famous. Back then, when Greed was only at the foundation establishment stage, he fell down a cliff and found a baby thunder dragon. He carefully hid it, and when he encountered danger, the aura from the thunder dragon would protect its master. Later, Greed brought a wasted magical treasure in an ordinary city. However, after some research, it turned out that this treasure wasn't a waste but an ancient magical devil. Greed used it to brand and seal the thunder dragon, so that it could never awaken and remain under his control. It wasn't until he reached the ascendant stage that he refined it into his second Orin soul. However, he didn't dare to stimulate it too much, lest it awaken and escape from his control. This green dragon opened its eyes and let out a real dragon roar. At this moment, the sky changed color and the clouds gathered. Even the resistance from the tide abyss was pushed away. Wang Lin revealed a bitter smile. Without any hesitation, He borrowed the resistance force to push himself back up and stayed far away from this green dragon. Greed. This person is really full of treasures. Even his second origin soul is a dragon. The furnace that too. The ancient god that Wang Lin got his inheritance from refined back then also landed in his hands. His cultivation level is also high, so he can be considered someone who has the heaven's own luck. Wang Lin bitterly smiled. He didn't know that back when Greed was only 8 and hadn't even started cultivating, he found a 500-year-old Solomon's seal one. It's a type of plant while playing. He took it home and ate it after breaking it. Not only was he not killed by the surge of energy inside it, but it laid his foundation as a cultivator. As the green dragon let out a roar, its cold eyes swept the area and landed on Wang Lin. The hatred from before was still there. Although it had just awakened, it still remembered what happened. Its body turned into a ray of green light and charged directly at Wang Lin. After charging into the bottom of the tide abyss, Wang Lin saw the bottomless pit at the center. Suction force was coming from the hole and it was covered in mist. The dragon's roar and the fishy smell from its mouth came from behind him. Wang Lin let out a bitter smile as he stared at the bottomless pit. He clenched his teeth and suddenly jumped into the pit. At this moment, the green dragon rushed over while roaring. The dragon had just awakened, so its mind was still in a state of chaos. It was completely acting on instinct, and when it saw Wang Lin jump into the pit, it also rushed in without any hesitation. The suction force here was very different from outside. It was much stronger. This wasn't Wang Lin's first time in here, so he knew this. After jumping into the pit, he activated the celestial spiritual energy inside his body and stayed close to the side of the cliff. However, the green dragon didn't know. After it jumped into the pit, it immediately became aware of the suction and began to struggle. Lightning bolts shot from its body, and bolts of lightning as big as a bucket landed on the cliff. Large amounts of rocks were blown off from the sides of the pit. The deeper inside the pit, the stronger the suction force became. The green dragon struggled as the lightning around him resisted the suction force. Just as it was about to charge out, its head suddenly turned and saw Wang Lin, who was carefully controlling his speed along the wall below it. The dragon suddenly let out a roar. It gave up on escaping and charged straight at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression became even more gloomy and he secretly cursed. This dragon didn't even know the danger it was facing. It felt the incredible suction force and still didn't run. Instead, after it saw Wang Lin, it gave up the opportunity to leave. There is this much hatred. Wang Lin stopped the celestial spiritual energy inside his body and was immediately pulled by the suction. He quickly sank, causing the green dragon to miss, and then it chased after Wang Lin. One person and one dragon went down the pit and gradually went deeper and deeper. Wang Lin immediately became aware that the suction coming from the bottom was becoming stronger, as if a storm was brewing. A roar came from behind Wang Lin as the green dragon opened its mouth. A giant ball of lightning came out and shot straight at Wang Lin. The ball of lightning moved with the might of an army and smashed toward Wang Lin like divine retribution. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he was about to dodge. However, the incoming ball of lightning suddenly paused before moving out of its original flight path and went slightly down. Wang Lin's expression changed, and he immediately felt an unimaginable suction force coming from below him. At this moment he no longer hesitated. He slapped his bag of holding and the 3 swords flew out. They formed a formation and stabbed into the wall, reinforcing each other. Wang Lin's hand tightly gripped onto a sword. At the instant he grabbed onto the sword, the suction from below him suddenly erupted. The first thing to change directions was the ball of lightning. It went straight down and was sucked into the depths of the pit. The ball of lightning gave off light that lit up the lower part of this pit. Wang Lin looked down and only saw an bottomless pit. Soon the light faded and the ball of lightning disappeared. The ancient thunder dragon was startled, and for the first time fear appeared in its eyes. It no longer tried to swallow Wang Lin but struggled to fly upwards. It was afraid. In its ancient memory inheritance it had seen something similar before. It let out a fierce roar and lightning covered its body. It managed to resist some of the suction force around it and flew up 30 feet. Want to run? Wang Lin's eyes became cold. If it wasn't for the thunder dragon, how could he be forced to come inside here? If it wasn't for the Thunder Dragon naively chasing him down the pit, he would have already left. Now at this distance it was simply impossible for Wang Lin to rush out. "Stop for me." Wang Lin let out a roar as the celestial spiritual energy inside his body surged and activated the celestial stop spell. If it was in the past, even if the Thunder Dragon was stopped, it would be only for an instant and it wouldn't care. However, right now it was completely different. The Thunder Dragon's body paused for a moment. It let out an unwilling roar and was pulled down by the huge suction force for more than 100 feet. "You won't be able to run." Wang Lin's eyes become cold. His body was being pulled down by the suction force. As he rapidly sank, the 3 swords that were inside the wall were dragged down as well, creating 3 deep cuts in the wall. "Stop!" Wang Lin activated the spell again. The Thunder Dragon struggled and the lightning flickered like crazy. It was trying to fly back up. If it wasn't for Wang Lin, it really could have rushed back out. However, every time it rushed up a bit, Wang Lin would immediately stop it. The Thunder Dragon was surrounded by the suction force, so no matter how much it struggled, it was useless. Due to the suction force, all of the attacks it threw at Wang Lin couldn't even get near him before they were pulled into the pit. It could only stare at Wang Lin while it despaired and was pulled into the pit. Just at this moment, the suction force suddenly increased. This suction force was several times stronger than before and pulled like crazy. Wang Lin felt like his arms were going to be torn off, but he clung to the sword. The 3 swords grinded against the wall, leaving behind deep cuts. However, this suction force was too great, so the buffer created by the 3 swords was rapidly dissipating. Sensing the crisis, Wang Lin clenched his teeth and immediately sent a part of his divine sense into his bag of holding. The celestial sword and half-moon blade immediately flew out. They stabbed into the wall under Wang Lin's feet. Wang Lin stood on the 2 swords and rapidly sank. Sounds of friction echoed in the pit as 5 deep cuts were dragged down the wall along with Wang Lin. Looking at the Thunder Dragon now, even though it was struggling, it still sank like a meteor. It couldn't even keep its shape. It had been stretched into a long stream of green gas. At novel bin at. There were faint green lights coming from the green gas. The green gas had been sucked deep into the pit, and it faintly lit up the surroundings. "Go down!" That strange female voice came from Wang Lin's bag into his mind again. Wang Lin's expression was extremely gloomy as he looked down, but his expression changed. Borrowing the light from the green gas, he could vaguely see a shadow sticking out horizontally. At this moment, the green light illuminated this shadow. Wang Lin was able to see that it was a large rock sticking out from the wall. This rock was about 100 feet wide, and there was a transfer array on it. Before Wang Lin could take a closer look, the green light weakened. Without the light, this large rock retreated back into the darkness. Transfer array. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. Unfortunately, he couldn't spread out his divine sense, or else he could have seen everything clearly. Wang Lin suddenly felt that the celestial sword was gone from under his feet, and shortly after, the half-moon blade did the same. "There is a crack." Wang Lin immediately felt ecstasy, and without any hesitation, he swung toward the wall. His body immediately entered the hole in the wall. As expected, there was a 10-foot crack in the wall, and Wang Lin quickly entered it. After entering, he immediately retrieved the 3 swords, the celestial sword, and the half-moon blade as fast as possible. When the Thunder Dragon soul that had already turned into green gas saw Wang Lin enter the crack, it immediately began to struggle. As the green gas churned, it condensed into a dragon once more. It let out a roar and rushed toward the crack Wang Lin was in. This time it didn't want to devour Wang Lin. It wanted to enter the crack to avoid the suction force. It activated all the thunder energy in its body as it charged toward the crack like crazy. However, the suction force was too powerful, so it was almost impossible for it to reach the crack. The Thunder Dragon revealed a decisive gaze. Then its body suddenly split in half. The bottom half was sucked deep into the pit, while the upper half used that moment to rush toward the crack. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Just as he felt relief inside the crack, he saw the Thunder Dragon coming over. At this moment, all he needed was one stop spell, and it would make the Thunder Dragon despair as it was sucked away by the suction force. The Thunder Dragon was obviously aware of this, so it opened its mouth to spit out a ball of lightning. If it was successful in spitting it out, Wang Lin would naturally have no place to dodge. Everything would depend on who was faster in activating their spell between this dragon and human. However, Wang Lin had other plans. He personally saw the dragon give up half its body, and more than half of its current power was being used to resist the suction force. It could be said that right now was the Thunder Dragon's weakest moment. Wang Lin clenched his teeth, and without any hesitation he closed his eyes and his origin soul flew out. Just as this Thunder Dragon entered the crack and was about to spit out the ball of lightning, Wang Lin's origin soul devoured the Thunder Dragon. Wang Lin was once an soul devourer that could devour every soul in the world. However, as his cultivation level increased, he gradually stopped using this technique. At this moment, his origin soul expanded greatly. The Thunder Dragon was completely stunned when Wang Lin devoured it. After devouring the ancient Thunder Dragon's soul, Wang Lin's origin soul immediately returned to his body. At this moment, there was a powerful explosion inside his soul. Even with only half of its spirit body, the power of the ancient Thunder Dragon was still unimaginable. After Wang Lin devoured it, he activated the Soul Devourer's spell to quickly absorb it. Bursts of lightning moved inside and outside of Wang Lin's origin soul, displaying the might of thunder and lightning. It even penetrated into his flesh and bones. The suction force didn't have much effect inside the crack, so Wang Lin put all his attention into absorbing the Thunder Dragon. His origin soul was constantly growing. This wasn't a growth in quantity but in quality. Wang Lin's origin was surrounded by lighting. There was a long ancient Thunder Dragon extending inside his origin soul like veins. This Thunder Dragon's expression was extremely painful, and there was even trace of ferocity on its face. Strands of branches extended from the Thunder Dragon toward all corners of Wang Lin's origin soul. The power of the Thunder Dragon was changing Wang Lin's origin soul in a mysterious way. Even people like the All-Seer wouldn't dare to devour an ancient Thunder Dragon. This was because this Thunder Dragon wasn't like any other ancient beast. Rumor had it that the ancient Thunder Dragons were born from thunder and were the darlings of the heavens. There was even a period of time where they controlled the power of thunder for the heavens. Devouring this ancient Thunder Dragon was the same as devouring a sky filled with thunder. How could a cultivator's origin soul withstand this kind of thunder? However, the other side of peril was endless opportunity. Wang Lin's origin soul was surrounded by the lightning from the Thunder Dragon, and a large amount of thunder gathered in Wang Lin's body. As the rumbling continued, a trace of thunder appeared in Wang Lin's origin soul. His origin was in an incredible state and it was going an earth-shaking change. This change perhaps wouldn't improve his cultivation, but it would open up endless paths for Wang Lin in the future. An origin soul that contained thunder. Even the All-Seer had never seen a cultivator that had managed to achieve this. The Thunder Dragon inside Wang Lin's origin soul struggled intensely, affecting Wang Lin's origin soul. It hadn't given in yet, and it launched a counterattack. Wang Lin's body and hair began to float into the air as if guided by some mysterious energy. Bursts of lightning came from his body and quickly scattered into the walls of the cliff. His origin soul was filled with lightning. The ancient Thunder Dragon was unwilling to yield, making the devouring process filled with danger. The Thunder Dragon continued to struggle, and the more it struggled, the stronger the lightning it gave off became. Powerful lightning caused Wang Lin's origin soul to reach a state of imminent collapse. If it wasn't for his stubborn perseverance, a normal person's origin soul would have already collapsed. Wang Lin's origin soul suddenly opened his tightly closed eyes. His eyes gave off a burst of lightning as if he was the ancient Thunder Dragon. He had a feeling that if his origin soul stayed inside his body would be directly affected, which would lead to his death. His origin soul immediately flew out of his body. He revealed a decisive look, and without any hesitation, his hand reached into his origin soul. He grabbed the Thunder Dragon and dragged out a small portion of it. The Thunder Dragon suddenly let out a roar, causing Wang Lin's origin soul to emit a large amount of lightning. The lightning landed on the walls, creating many crackling sounds. Holding part of the Thunder Dragon, Wang Lin's eyes became cold. His left hand moved, creating a large amount of restrictions that landed on that part of the Thunder Dragon. After doing this, Wang Lin reached into his origin soul and grabbed another section. He continued to place restrictions on it. With external forces helping his origin soul, This cycle of sealing and devouring continued. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin became completely immersed in fusing with the Thunder Dragon and became oblivious to the outside world. His body gradually lost its luster and slowly withered. However, it didn't die. It had entered a suspended animation state in order to ensure his vitality wasn't lost. Day by day, year by year passed. On this day, the Thunder Dragon inside Wang Lin's origin Wall wasn't struggling as violently, but it was still struggling. However, there were countless restrictions flashing on its body. They stacked together and formed the seal of the dragon. Wang Lin's origin soul had gradually shrunk throughout the years. It was now only 3 feet tall, only as big as a cultivator's nascent soul. Although his origin soul had shrunk, it gave off the power of thunder. It was no longer crystal clear but emitted endless lightning bolts. It was as if there were millions of silver snakes moving inside his origin soul. Wang Lin opened his eyes and thunderous rumbling sounds echoed around him. Then 2 rays of lightning shot out from his eyes like 2 dragons and disappeared into the darkness. His origin soul moved and arrived next to his body. When Wang Lin glanced at his own body, lightning flashed across his eyes. His eyes gave off the pressure of coldness and indifference. All of the muscles on his body had already withered away, so he was like a bag of bones right now. If it wasn't for the sliver of vitality coming from between his eyebrows, this body would have already become a corpse. His origin soul floated above his body and gradually entered it. When he was entering his body, he felt a barrier blocking him. Fortunately, this barrier dissipated a moment later, so he was able to successfully enter his body. In an instant, lightning came from his body and moved throughout his body. His muscles recovered at rate visible to the naked eye. In an instant, he returned to normal, only he looked slightly thinner compared to before. Wang Lin let out a mouthful of foul air. This air was gray and also contained lightning. His eyes were as bright as a lightning bolt streak across the sky. He began to deeply ponder. This trip was very dangerous, but my harvest was beyond imagination. Although I don't know if this is good or bad, my origin soul completely transformed. Now my origin soul is more like a bolt of divine retribution lightning. Wang Lin pondered even harder. Then he raised his head and looked outside the crack. An origin soul that transformed into lightning. It is interesting. Now if someone wants to destroy my origin soul, it will be like trying to destroy divine retribution lightning. Although my cultivation is still at the early stage of ascendant after this opportunity, it gave me the power of thunder. Wang Lin raised his right hand. Lightning filled his hand and quickly formed a ball of lightning. Sound of explosions came from inside the ball of lightning. Clearly it was not very stable. A moment later, the ball of lightning collapsed. Then Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he swallowed it. There was a hint of red on his face, but it gradually returned to normal. However, what exactly is my current origin soul? Wang Lin's eyes were filled with confusion. He never thought that devouring that half of the Thunder Dragon would cause his origin soul to change in such a strange way. At Novel Bin at, he wasn't able to completely absorb the Thunder Dragon. He had only managed to absorb 1/5, and the rest was sealed inside his origin soul. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin tried out all of his spells. He could still use all of his spells, including the Underworld River. Only after this did Wang Lin let out a sigh of relief. However, he immediately felt that there was a difference. Although the spells were no different from before on the surface, if one observed carefully, there was the power of thunder in all of them. A strand of very powerful thunder. Wang Lin frowned. Increasing the strength of his spells was a good thing. Also, this increase in power wasn't just a little. With his current spells, he could be standing among the top of mid-stage ascendant cultivators. Along with his magical treasures, he could even battle with late-stage ascendant cultivators. However, Wang Lin still felt like something was wrong, as if something was forgotten. He pondered for a long time and that feeling was still there. He stood up and walked toward the exit of the crack. It was completely dark outside, and the sound of the suction force was like the wailing of ghosts. The closer he came to the exit, the stronger that voice became. Looking outside the crack, it was as if a bolt of lightning flashed across Wang Lin's mind, and he suddenly knew why he felt that something was wrong. Why was there that barrier when my origin soul tried to return to my body? Wang Lin's expression was extremely ugly. The scattered devil was still sealed in his origin soul, so it was impossible for it to be a possession. It also didn't look like his origin soul had been robbed. It seems like the problem is my origin soul. Wang Lin planned for his origin soul to leave his body again, but his expression immediately changed. My origin soul can't leave my body. Wang Lin immediately took a few steps back and sat down in the lotus position. He tried several times before opening his eyes. He was not flustered and he calmly pondered. It is still that barrier blocking my origin soul from leaving. Could this be the price after the origin soul mutated? Wang Lin took a deep breath. Forget it, let's not think about it now. Let's have a look at this token. What kind of spell did it have to condense from the mist? Wang Lin slapped at his bag of holding and a purple token appeared in his hand.